Okay, so the passage that I have chosen from Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway is from chapter 21, and I'm going to focus on mainly characterization, syntax, and diction, and then I'm kind of going to mix in the other two, but basically I've um, highlighted the different literary devices. So green is characterization, blue is symbolism, red is syntax, orange is simile, and purple is diction. And to set the scene for this, passage, basically what's happening is the Allied forces are experiencing some troubles in World War I, and Henry, who is a part of the Italian army, he is sent home for 3 weeks, leave from the war, and Catherine, whom he has fallen in love with, offers to travel with him, and she reveals that she is 3 months pregnant, so that's a surprise for Henry. And after this news is revealed, the following conversation ensues. So I will go ahead and read the passage. We were quiet a while and did not talk. Catherine was sitting on the bed, and I was looking at her, but we did not touch each other. We were apart, as when someone comes into a room and people are self-conscious. She put out her hand and took mine. You aren't angry, are you, darling? No. And you don't feel trapped? Maybe a little, but not by you. I didn't mean by me. You mustn't be stupid. I meant trapped at all. You always feel trapped biologically. She went away a long time without stirring or removing her hand. Always isn't a pretty word. I'm sorry. It's all right. But you see, I've never had a baby, and I've never even loved anyone. And I've tried to be the way you wanted, and then you talk about always. I could cut off my tongue, I offered. Oh, darling. She came back from wherever she had been. You mustn't mind me. We were both together again, and the self-consciousness was gone. We really are the same one, and we mustn't misunderstand on purpose. We won't. But people do. They love each other, and they misunderstand on purpose, and they fight, and then suddenly they aren't the same one. We won't fight. We mustn't. Because there's only us two, and in the world there's all the rest of them. If anything comes between us, we're gone, and then they have us. They won't get us, I said, because you're too brave. Nothing ever happens to the brave. They die, of course. But only once. I don't know. Who said that? The coward dies 1,000 deaths, the brave but one. Of course. Who said it? I don't know. He was probably a coward, she said. He knew a great deal about cowards, but nothing about the brave. The brave dies perhaps 2,000 deaths if he's intelligent. He simply doesn't mention them. I don't know. It's hard to see inside the head of the brave. Yes, that's how they keep that way. You're an authority. You're right, darling. That was deserved. You're brave. No, she said, but I would like to be. I'm not, I said. I know where I stand. I've been out long enough to know. I'm like a ball player that bats 230 and knows he's no better. What is a ball player that bats 230? It's awfully impressive. It's not. It means a mediocre hitter in baseball. But still a hitter, she prodded me. I guess we're both conceited, I said, but you are brave. Okay, so looking at the literary devices that Hemingway uses, first I will go over diction. So as you can see here in purple, Hemingway uses words such as apart, self-conscious, angry, and trapped. By using such words as these, the language creates a barrier almost in between Catherine and Henry as they're experiencing this newfound pregnancy together. It creates a tone for the passage. It shows that this pregnancy that Catherine has just told Henry about is certainly a divisive topic, and it's something that they are going to need to work together through to ultimately come out on the other side of it still together and not apart, such as the language is shown. And you can see that once more in purple here, Hemingway uses self-consciousness, and this shows that throughout this conversation, Henry and Catherine both feel certain feelings, like they are almost distant, and they're not a part of the conversation with each other. They almost feel like they're somewhere else because of everything that's going on with Henry and the war, Catherine and being pregnant for the first time and feeling like she's in love for the first time for real. And so this self-consciousness, that language shows that their minds might not be present in the current situation. And all right, moving on to symbolism. Well, I do not have that highlighted, but basically what I had for symbolism was brave. So you can see they say brave a lot. They say, because you're too brave. The coward dies 1,000 deaths, but the brave but one. And then in the end, I guess we're both conceited, I said, but you are brave. And this idea of being brave throughout this passage, I think, is a symbol that Hemingway uses to symbolize or represent the standard that Catherine and Henry believe that they should be living up to. They think that throughout this war and throughout pregnancy, that being brave essentially represents what society believes that they should be as a man and a woman. And I think that can be applied to our world too today, being brave. And yes, so that's a symbol. Moving on to syntax, and that's in red. So you can see here a couple of sections. So it says they're having a conversation, and it says, they die, of course, but only once. I don't know. Who said that? The coward dies 1,000 deaths, but the brave but one. Of course, who said it? I don't know. You can see this choppy language and this short and abbreviated syntax, and this allows Hemingway to represent the scattered thoughts and the almost panic that Henry and Catherine are feeling as they experience these new emotions that they've definitely not felt before. And then you can see, moving along, it says in the red here, I don't know. It's hard to see inside the head of the brave. Yes, that's how they keep that way. You're an authority. You're right, darling. That was deserved. You're brave. No, she said, but I would like to be. Once again, they're just saying these short spurts of thought, and this once again represents how they really do not feel at all confident about the situation, even though they might be putting off an aura of confidence. They really do feel panicked about what's going on. Moving on to similes. So in orange, you can see Henry says, I'm not. I know where I stand. I've been out long enough to know. I'm like a ball player that bats 230 and knows he's no better. So Catherine keeps imploring that he's brave and that he has the capability of doing this, but Henry then brings along the simile of comparing himself to a ball player that bats 230, and that's really not that good for baseball. And so you can, through the use of this simile, Hemingway is allowing his readers to understand the thoughts of Henry, and that he is really not all too confident in himself as he's fighting this war for Italy and his country. And then probably one of the biggest ones is characterization. So you can see in green. So the first one here, she went away a long time without stirring or removing her hand. So that's talking about Catherine. And by using such a phrase as this, Hemingway is able to characterize Catherine as one who oftentimes will slip away from a conversation and not be very present in the moment, and it shows her inexperience and that she is not used to what is happening to her. And once again, the next phrase, Catherine says, "It's all right, but you see, I've never had a baby. I've never even loved anyone. And I've tried to be the way you wanted, and then you talk about always." You can see here that Catherine is very heavily influenced by the world and what Henry thinks she should be, and she has never had a baby, and she's never loved anyone, and therefore she is very inexperienced and very new to what is going on. Once again, Hemingway uses characterization. He says, "We really are the same one, and we mustn't misunderstand on purpose." He characterizes the Henry and Catherine essentially as one body, that they think the same, and they their thoughts are heavily influenced by each other, and so he characterizes them as such. And then Catherine, Hemingway uses the language of Catherine to first characterize her as wishful and hopeful that Henry would be brave, and then also as characterizing Henry as putting off this false sense of bravery because he wants to seem tough in front of the soldiers and because of the war, and he wants to support Catherine, but really through that simile that we saw earlier, he is really not all too brave. And then in the end, Hemingway ties it up in terms of characterization, saying, "I guess we're both conceited," I said, but you are brave." And this wraps it up, saying that in this time of new experiences and new things going on in terms of the war and pregnancy, they both, Catherine and Henry, their thoughts are kind of matching up, and as they're going throughout this situation, they are starting to become one as their love becomes stronger, and Hemingway is able to show that accurately through the characterization. Yep, so that is the literary devices that Hemingway uses in this passage to further explain the situation and allow the reader to understand the thoughts of Catherine and Henry as they go throughout these new life events.